Well, good afternoon, everyone, and may I welcome you to this hybrid meeting of Democratic Services Committee, which is open to the press and public. We welcome the use of the Welsh language at meetings, and I have had no requests for people to speak Welsh today, so the meeting will be conducted in English only. Please can members use the raised hand icon to indicate when they want to speak, and remember to keep the microphones muted when they're not talking. May I remind members that as a statutory guidance under Section 4 of the Local Government Wales Measure 2011 and formally adopted hybrid meeting policy, any member attending a meeting remotely must be able to be seen and heard by the members and officers who are attending the meeting, as well as by members of the public viewing the meeting. So can I ask you all to please use your cameras during the duration of the meeting. And we move on to the agenda now. Item 1. Dominic, do we have any apologies?
The Chair, I've had apologies from Councillor Rose Seaborn.
Thank you. Item 2. Declarations of interest. Members, do you have any interest to declare at all? No? Thank you. Item 3. Minutes of the Democratic Services Committee held on the 23rd of November 2024. Members, could you possibly state whether you have anything to raise in relation to the minutes? If not, we will take it as approved. Anybody got anything to raise at all? No? Thank you very much. Item 4 then. Members, the action sheets includes updates on what has been done to implement the committee's previous decisions. There are currently no outstanding actions. Agenda item 5, Member Survey 2024. I'd like to ask Tom Roberts, Business and Democratic Services Support Manager. Could you present this report for us, please, Tom?
Thank you, Chair. The draft Member Survey Report 2024 provides Democratic Services Committee the opportunity to comment on the appended survey and suggest any changes or additions they consider appropriate. The findings of our annual survey are extremely important. They help the team gain an understanding of the level of member satisfaction with the services provided and to improve and plan for the year ahead to ensure that member support needs are met. The draft survey presented remains largely the same as the survey issued in 2023. However, the main points of difference to the questions are a question requesting feedback on the weekly newsletter circulated to members, that's the members' missive, and a breakdown of IT equipment so that members can provide feedback on individual pieces of equipment. As members are aware, continuous training, development and support are vital to ensure they are equipped to undertake their roles effectively. This survey has been designed for members to provide their views on whether their needs are being met within the agreed operating models and resources available. The findings received will be presented back to this committee so that solutions to any areas of concern can be considered. At that point, I'll hand it back to you now, Chair, and we'll be happy to take any questions.
Okay, members. Thank you for that, Tom. Any questions from members?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I've got a couple of questions or points to raise. So the first one is, firstly, I think the listing the equipment separately, I think is a good idea, because then people can comment on them if they've got specific problems. The other thing I wanted to say was, after the listing of the different equipment, there is a question which says, do you feel adequately equipped to undertake your role? And I'm assuming that that means the actual equipment that you've got. Whereas later on, there's a couple of questions the same. Do you feel adequately equipped to undertake your role? Which I'm assuming relate to, are you knowledgeable enough or trained enough to? So I wondered if that questioning is a bit confusing because we're using the same word to mean two different things.
Yeah, thanks for that point. I think that does sound a little bit confusing, and we'll clarify it before it goes out. Thank you.
Thank you. I've got another point, if I may. Yeah, so question 4 rates how convenient different start times are. And there's a number of start times there, but there isn't 5 p.m. And I know that a number of councillors were expecting to be offered 5 p.m. And I know that people are being asked, now the committees are up and running, what time they prefer, and 5 p.m. doesn't seem to be on the table anymore, whereas I think some councillors were expecting to see that, so I wondered what had happened to 5 p.m.
Yeah, the one member had been particularly keen for a 5 p.m. start, and I've had some back and forth emails with that member. I wasn't aware that there was a groundswell of opinion, but my message on that one is, if within a committee there is an overwhelming majority of members or a significant number of members who are really keen for that 5 p.m. start, then it's something we'd have to look to explore. Starting at 4 p.m. is fine within existing working patterns, just about, because it does mean finishing a meeting at 6. But if you're potentially a little bit later, but ordinarily at around about 6 o'clock, starting a meeting at 5 would have a lot of knock-on effects that we'd have to consider. Things like the opening time of the building, officer welfare, as far as some officers potentially being working alone within the building. IT support is a big issue. We have had some recent issues with the webcasting function, and if we didn't have adequate IT support on hand, then there's potential issues. So it's not totally off the table, but within our existing working arrangements, it would be quite difficult. But as I said, if there was if members simply did not want that 10 or 4 o'clock start time, then it's something we'd have to look to explore. But it's not something I can just switch on without considering other implications.
Thank you for that. I understand your response. If there was a committee that felt strongly they wanted to discuss going to 5 p.m, would they discuss it amongst themselves and then come to you or come to member services and have that discussion with you?
I would get the message through the scrutiny support officer, yes. So you wouldn't have to come directly to me. It would get to me through that scrutiny officer.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to pick up on that one as well, Tom, as Ginger said, the 5 o'clock one. I mean, many years ago, and I'm sure the older members of the council remember when we used to have council at 5 o'clock, and it used to go through, and it could sometimes go on for hours, and there was always the canteen here then, so you could go and have your tea after. And there was a big upheaval then for all the officers and keeping the building open. Because over the years, things have changed now, and there were people working full-time as well then, but not with the new council. Well, there are new people here as well working as well. I'm still working full-time, and I should have retired years ago. But it was a 5 o'clocker, and I don't think many members would ever want to see the full committees going back to that again. Again, as Tom said, it's a lot of things to look at there, with IT, whatever, officers, and everybody got their lives to lead as well. I mean, if members, I wouldn't think there's a lot of members would want to go that, but if there's just one particular committee, you'd have to look at it and go from there.
So, and the other thing I didn't mention, I know everyone's got other commitments. And I know that there are things like community councils, governors' meetings that we'd be potentially making clashes with by moving further into the evening. So, like I said, it's not something we've totally discounted, but it's not as straightforward as just going, yeah, we'll start at 5.
Any other questions, members? No? No. Okay. Thank you. Recommendations on page 10. Members, do you agree with these recommendations? Yep. Anyone against? Any abstentions? Thank you, members. Agenda item 6, Local Government Council Support Self-Evaluation Framework. Once again, Tom Roberts, would you like to present this, please?
The purpose of this report is to present to the committee the WLGA's Councillor Support Self-Evaluation Framework. It represents a new voluntary self-evaluation framework for councils, modernising and replacing the former Wales Charter for Councillor Support and Development. The framework has been developed by the WLGA, Democratic Services Officers and councillors, and provides an ambitious but pragmatic national framework of good practice in councillor support. The framework covers support and development for councillors in the widest sense to incorporate support provided by the whole council, including democratic services, legal, digital, communications, learning and development teams and directorates in their support for scrutiny, the executive and frontline councillors. The needs of all councillors before election as new members and as experienced politicians, all councillor roles both within the council and in the community, the personal and professional support provided to councillors within the influence of councils, and also the expectations placed on councils, officers and councillors themselves. The framework aims to cover all aspects of good practice in councillor support. However, as priorities and resources differ between councils, the extent to which individuals' councils are able to implement the practice described will depend on local resources and priorities and the needs and priorities of councillors. I'll hand back to the Chair there and I'll be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Tom. Members, do you have any questions for Tom? Any at all? No? No, thank you very much. Right, recommendations on page 24. Members, do you agree with the recommendations? Do you all agree? Anyone against? Any abstentions? That's carried. Thank you, members. Agenda item 7, Independent Remuneration Panel for Wales report. Payments to co-opted members. Once again, Tom Roberts, would you present this one, please?
Thank you, Chair. The third and final report for the committee is to note the guidance produced for applying payments to co-opted members set out in Appendix 1. As members are aware, the IRPW produce an annual report that is distributed to all members during the consultation period each year. Each annual report contains a number of determinations which local authorities are required to implement. The report is focused on Determination 5, payments made to co-opted members, which we have used to develop draft guidance that we are asking this committee to comment on its suitability as a local flexible approach better reflecting new ways of working and hours actually worked. So the current determination made in the 2022 to 2023 annual report states that co-opted members of the relevant body should be remunerated on a day or half-day basis. In addition, the relevant officers may decide on the total number of days remunerated in a year and set a reasonable time for meeting preparation. The panel has noted the changes to working practices put in place during COVID and now becoming more routine, and this has meant a move towards more frequent use of online meetings and or training courses, often short as well as more regular committee meetings. The panel has determined that there should be a local flexibility to decide when it will be appropriate to apply a day or half-day rate or to use an hourly rate where it is sensible to aggregate a number of short meetings. The amounts are set out in Table 3 of the report. The panel has stated good practice examples will be made available. However, it is not clear at this stage when this information will be received, and given that the determinations set out in the IRPW report for 24-25 were applicable from the 1st of April 2024, the committee are therefore being asked to comment on the attached guidance in relation to Determination 5 prior to its implementation. However, it is possible or even likely that the guidance could be amended, if appropriate, upon receipt of any good practice examples. And obviously this committee will be made aware as and when that occurs. The committee are therefore being asked to comment on the attached guidance in relation to Determination 5 prior to its implementation, on the condition that the guidance can be amended, if appropriate, upon receipt of any good practice examples. I'll hand back to you there, Chair, and we'll be happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Members, do you have any questions for Tom? No, none at all. Recommendations on page 41.
Sorry, Chair. Councillor Benera has a hand up.
Oh, sorry, didn't see that. Come on. Come on, Catherine.
Thank you, Chair. The hourly rate one, that's something that I think might benefit moving forward as we're more online with meetings. And as we know, some meetings are very short. I'm just wondering, would the hourly rate one bring more work for officers as opposed to having a standard amount that gets paid to them? Would the hourly thing cause more work for yourselves, etc.?
I think there's potential for us to having to do a few more calculations, totting things up, and it probably does add a little bit of complication to making claims, but I don't see it as being overly onerous. So I'm just looking to Dom, who's probably more in tune with this than I am.
No, I don't think it's anything too onerous. It's quite straightforward, just to keep a tally of how long meetings last for and pre-agenda meetings. So yeah, it's nothing too onerous for us.
Thank you, members. Any more questions? No. Recommendations on page... Oh, I was looking that way. Colette? You're on mute.
Chair, how many?
There you are. You're on there.
How many co-opted members do we have altogether on the council, please?
I can't remember off the top of my head. Sorry, I'll have to come back to you on it. But it's about. I think we have 2 scrutiny co-opted members at the moment, and then about another 4 then on other committees.
Fine, yeah.
We'll email out a definitive figure for that, Councillor.
Okay, thank you, yeah.
Okay, any more questions, members? No. Okay, recommendations then, you find them on page 41. Members, do you agree with the recommendations? You all agree? Anyone against? Anyone abstaining? Thank you, members, for that. Item agenda number 8 then. Date and time of the next meeting. Date and time of the next meeting will be agreed in due course, and members of the committee will be notified. May I thank you for all your attendance today and your contributions. I'll now close the meeting. Have a good day. Thank you.